I swear profusely.
Good.
Good. Okay, cool.
We had our first. We had our first C-bomb only a couple of episodes ago.
Oh, well done.
Emma Uden.
Of course it was Emma. I'm proud of her.
The video's on.
Did you beep?
No, we didn't. No, we don't censor. In case children listen, like the young
listen to this.
They don't. Well, the thing is, it's kind of. I mean, it's meant to be advice for young performers and young artists of all variety. Pacific got sent to like a school or something. But like,
advice.
Oh, check this out, because I mean, if you want to be an actor, it's got some great advice.
Do you want to be an actor? Cunt.
And then just. I mean, it is a big part of being a performer.
What? Cunt. Yes, I agree.
Hello and welcome to the Young Performers Podcast. This week, we're sitting down with an incredibly intelligent individual. He is a musical director who has worked on productions like Ragtime at the Charing Cross Theatre and The Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. Introducing the lovely Jordan Lee Smith. What have you been up to for the last few days? I need to, I'm going to be mumbling like crazy. This is not good
fine.
For a podcast.
Musical theatre. Diction, if you want to be an actor, yeah?
Okay, so you talk and I'll just be like...
Okay. What was the question? I booked 2 hours, we're going to need it.
We got 2 hours.
I hope you edit the shit out of this.
So so I will confess, knowing you, because I've known you for a long time. And we did a show together when we were 16?
Were we 16?
16? 17?
I'd say we were.
16, 16, yeah.
Yeah.
With NYMT.
Glorious NYMT.
Glorious, the dreaming.
Yes.
It was the best.
Yes, it was. We did it twice.
We did it twice, yeah.
It was that good. We did it.
So good. By popular demand, it returned. Because those ticket sales, man, they were...
Kingston loved it. Yeah.
Loved it. So, at that stage, did you want to be an actor?
At that stage, yes, I did want to be an actor. I was still in my first year of doing my degree, like, you know, every other musical theatre actor does. You do your 3 years diploma degree, whatever. And it was the natural progression, you know. I went to secondary school. I went to a place called the Hammond, which is a vocational school, education and vocation along the side. So I trained as a dancer for 5 years during my secondary school. And yeah, it was the natural progression. I trained as a dancer, I trained in musical theatre, it was what I wanted to do, so that's what I do, you know. But I have to be honest, by the time when I went into doing that 3-year course, I mean, sure, I was listening to MT and stuff like that, but I didn't really consider how exactly stuff got done, how theatre, you know. Steve Sondheim wrote a great song, but I have no idea how Johnny Tunick made the charts. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that I didn't really understand. I don't remember when the actual point was where I when I realised, oh, someone wrote that. Someone did this to make this happen. But I think it was roughly around that first year when I started really listening to scores properly, reading scores. I would read more scores than books. Because that was what I really liked doing. I was a studier. I was a constant, ferocious studier of the form, and I wanted to know how it worked. And as soon as I got into that, that's when I got interested in writing, and then eventually musical direction.
What age was that?
16 to 18. That's when that sort of manifest itself. Yeah,
metamorphosizing.
Exactly.
Musical director.
Yeah. We've ended up here.
So would you say it was a gradual kind of change and realization? For you going, I think actually I want to do this.
Throughout that whole 3 years, I was the guy who played piano. Always played piano. So I was the guy who asked, George, can you just play out the tune for this, or could you just put me a backing track down, whatever. And then eventually I would end up playing for a few classes as well, and ending up assisting some of the productions at the end of the summer year. But still, when it came round to the end of the year, I was still very keen on doing a postgrad in musical theatre acting at the Royal Academy of Music. And many teachers had mentioned it, and it was something that I was very keen on doing. I didn't want to stop learning. And looking up on the course, I then found that they do, alongside their wonderful acting course, they do a 1-year postgrad in musical direction. And I thought, wow, someone's put a name on it now, and I can go, oh, okay, this is a viable option that I could consider doing. Sure, I have no idea what I'm doing, musical direction at that time, but I thought it was something that I had the tools in order to develop to do it. So willy-nilly, I sent an email to the Royal Academy, can I audition for both? And they said no. So it was simply a case of, I couldn't audition for both, I had to choose a pathway right now. And I decided on MDing.
Nice.
And that was that.
Yeah.
I took a big gamble, because I was like, they take 2 people a year on the course. I haven't been to music college. I am doing a switch over. But if I'm going to do the switch over, I'm going to do it properly. Do you know what I mean? I can't. I don't think I think some people can manage it, but I don't know how I'd be able to be an MD and an actor.
Did you have like a specific deciding factor that made you pick one or the other, or was it?
Think about it now. I'm not sure. I mean, it could be as crass to say that. I just wanted a more financially viable future. But how boring an answer is that? But it's true. It's true.
Totally.
But throughout that year, and especially after I finished the academy, there was no going back. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I got more gratification actually from being an MD, from being an educator, from being someone who pushes his or her cast to the maximum and getting the most out of it. It's like, they come with all their talent, and you've just got to use what they give you.
So what did your degree, your course with musical direction, what did it entail?
It's 9 months, and it's intensive is the word, I'd say. You work with the performers on the course. The course sort of runs alongside the performers course. There's 30 of them, which is fantastic. So you really get to know them all, and the first term you do lots of classes in conducting, orchestration, etc., and you play for a lot of performers, like one-to-one lessons and the group integration singing classes, etc., and you get to run choir rehearsals and stuff like that. So it's not like you're just sitting there studying scores and stuff, or being a rehearsal pianist, which is really important. You weren't just taught how to play for rehearsal, you were taught how to lead and be an MD. So that was your first term. My year was sort of special because it was the 20th anniversary of the course. So at the end of the first term, we did a big hoo-ha concert at the Prince Edward, and it was fantastic at the time. Miss Saigon was still running there, so being on the same set as that helicopter, which then when you see it is like, oh, it's a bit shit. It's literally half a helicopter.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah.
This is a cardboard cutout.
It really was. Anywho, it was fantastic. And then, so we did that, and then in the second term, we work with the actors in their showcase, for agent showcase, and we orchestrate their charts for the showcase, which is fantastic. I mean, what agent showcase gets like a full band with like tailor-made orchestrations? It's quite special. And then, of course, in the second term, alongside other projects that we do throughout the year, like midway through the year, you'll get to MD a musical. I did, Next to Normal, which was great, because, you can't do that in this country yet. But to get to do it secretly, because we couldn't tell anyone, obviously, rights and all that, but to get to do it was fantastic. And then you do other projects such as like music hall projects, cabaret, so important, cabaret projects. And then at the end of the year, we do the summer show. And I MD'd and orchestrated Amour. And yeah, I would easily say that was the best year of my life so far. At that point, yeah, definitely.
Going back a bit to when you were kind of applying for it, what did they expect from kind of applicants for the course? Like, what did you need to sort of have in terms of your background and your background knowledge to do this course?
Well, the actual prerequisite requirements aren't very high as such. They don't expect you to have an A-level in music. Of course, it would help, obviously. I had an A-level in music. It helped. But
I'm a plumber.
But formally, they just want to see what you can bring to the table, what potential you have. It's what they think you could potentially do. You know, for me, because obviously for me it was a big change in my career. It was like, but it was what I wanted to do, and that meant I sort of had to fast track my way there. And I thought the academy would help me the most. Of course, you had to be able to play at a high standard, but you had to be able to sight read at a very high standard, transpose at sight, improvisation, stuff like that. That's just important. And you know, some MDs are very good at different aspects. You know, we all have our strengths. And they want to see that. They want to see who you are. They want to see your individuality and what you bring to the table. They're not looking for the perfection. They're looking for what you can do, what they think you'll be able to do by the end of that year. So yeah, but it's intensive. You're there from like 10 till 9, constantly. So you practically live there, and you don't have a social life for 9 years, which is fantastic.
Okay.
But yeah.
So artists. So once you left RAM, now what? What was your first kind of? Did you have something lined up immediately to walk into, or did they kind of give you resources on the ideas of the sort?
Well, they sure don't spoon feed you, but they certainly help you in respects of throughout the year you would have gained a lot of contacts. I'd say 9 out of 10 jobs I get are through friends, through Facebook, through Twitter, through people I know who give kind recommendations. I think the first job I did get out of academy, which I didn't walk into straight away. Sure, I did my in between shows you teach one-to-one singing lessons, etc., which I love doing. My first job I actually got through Stage Jobs Pro, which was you went to see it. It was a fabulous new musical called Desperate Measures, based on Measure for Measure at the German Street Theatre. And that was my Christmas job that year. So I came out of the academy, taught for a bit, and that was my first professional, got paid MD job. And then after that, everything I've got since then has been through people I know, because that's how it goes these days, you know. Yeah.
So because I mean, as an actor, obviously it's hugely down to who you know more than anything, but also you audition for things. But I guess you can't really audition for a job as an MD. So how? Is there ever a situation where it's between two MDs and they kind of have like an interview for the job?
I have interviewed for maybe 2 or 3 times over the 2-3 years that I've been kicking about as an MD. But more than ever, it's been a case of being approached to ask to do it.
MD, I know.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, it is strange. It is very strange. It's like, you know. It's like when we buy a washing machine, you won't try it out in the shop, will you? You just go, yeah, I'm sure it will wash the clothes. I'm sure this MD can play piano. Yeah. You'd think.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of trust in you. But more than ever, I think it's about word getting around, and people will ask other people what they like. So they will find, I'm sure your employers would find out. They won't just blindly go, I'm sure you can play. But yes, even when it's not like when I'm interviewed, I don't play piano.
Yeah, let's go. Out random bits of music and go.
Yes. Though, one way of getting around that, and this is with my producer's hat on, is if you're interested in MD, you just get them to play for auditions. You can see if they can sight read or not. So, and that's just an easy way of seeing what they can do.
On that, have you done a lot of playing in auditions?
Yes, absolutely.
So how's that? So is that literally a case of, again, same situation? Someone goes, "We need a pianist," and you're, "I'm free."
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So if I was going to ask about this later, but seeing we've got a nice segue. So you've been in a lot of auditions. Would you not recommend for an actor to bring in regarding songs? Are there any specific mistakes that actors keep making, and they go, "Oh, why did you bring this?" Like,
okay. Well, I always try and take out my personal preference of a song. If you came in with Jekyll and Hyde, as much as I don't like it as much as other things, shall we say, of course I'm going to try and keep that out of my head because I want to give you a fair shot. I'm not. Yeah, I would never fire someone because I don't like the song you sing. If you sung it shit, then yeah, okay, fine. Sometimes I can tell when someone brings in a song that they've just sung forever and ever and ever, and it's just a bit stale. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you have to do what your brief says. You must choose a song that fits the character that you're auditioning for, whatever. But I think it's always important, first of all, you choose a song that you love and choose a song that shows what you are. Don't try and fool us, because,
What makes a good versus a bad audition? Like, asking the most broad fucking question. But
what makes a good audition?
Like, if you think back to the best auditions you've seen.
Yes.
Essentially what I'm asking here is a bullet point list of how to get any role.
That doesn't exist. But it's actually an easy question to answer. What makes a good audition? Well, the blank answer is a good audition makes me want to employ you, but a good audition makes me want to spend 4 weeks rehearsing with you and then a further whatever during the show. It makes me think you're a great person to be around. You would be an asset in my cast. I want to spend time with you. I want to work with you. If you're a bit of a twat, if you're a bit of a bit full of yourself in the audition, or you just got to be present, be yourself, is what I'd say. More than often do actors act differently when they're a little bit nervous. Likewise. But yeah, I think a good audition is be yourself and show us what you have to give us. You've walked in the room to give us a solution to our problem, which is we don't have a cast yet. And just be friendly, be relatable, and it's nice to be greeted, it's nice to say thank you, all that sort of stuff. But it's just make us feel warm and comfy, and we want to spend more time with you, and we want to see you again for a recall,
So someone messes up an audition. And then when they come back, will that be playing the back of your mind, or do you tend to, because there are so many actors, you just kind of forget about it, or...
Well, yeah, that's a true point. If it's horrifically bad, I will remember. But when I say horrifically bad, it's not I personally didn't like the performance you gave. It's more stuff like you gave me really, really bad sheet music. It was really badly printed, or stuff like that. But you don't remember everyone. If you're asking, would I take into account the notes that I wrote a month before on a different audition, and I happen to see you a month later? If that's your question, then no, I won't. It's always it's what you do on that day at that time. Of course, what you did a month ago was horrifically rude or something like that, then you probably wouldn't even have an audition. But
I had a story once about so essentially, this guy came into an audition and they had the sheet music for what was the song? Some Enchanted Evening, I think it was.
Yeah.
But it was in the wrong key, and he basically said, "Do you mind just transposing this down a key or something?" And the guy was like, But oh no, it was worse than that. They just had the melody, as in the singer's melody. There were no
chords.
No chords or anything. And it's like, the song, right? And and the guy was like, and he's like, "Oh, could you also transpose it down?" And the pianist's like, it's like I just couldn't get the sheet music anywhere. And then he was like, "It's going to be interesting." And he was like, "Well, a good pianist would be able to do this." He actually said this. And so then the pianist did it flawlessly, did absolutely fine, he knew the song. And then politely gave him the link to Music Notes to where to get the exact piece of music in the exact right key he wanted. And
that's very kind.
Yeah.
It's very kind.
Very kind, but then, he didn't get the job, I don't think.
Not surprised.
But,
no.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. I mean, it's one thing to bring you music with just melody line and no chords, but don't ask for transposition. I mean, we can do it, but it's just not what you do for auditions, I don't think.
Yeah.
At least, I wouldn't. I mean, if it's what it is, I'll do it for you, but I'll probably do a shit job of it because I'm just making a point. It's true though, you know.
Yeah. No.
If you bring me this has happened before. If you bring me sheet music where it's been printed by obviously a crap printer because I can just see dots and no lines. I will play it, but it will be terrible. But that's for you to sort out. That's for you to get through your audition.
So you've something changed subject here. I can't think of a segue.
Great.
Segue. And so, have you assisted MD on many jobs?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So, what is the major difference between assistant MD and the MD?
It depends on the job and it depends what's needed. Sometimes the assistant MD role could be more of an admin sort of thing where you're in charge of Sibelius files. If it's a new musical, in charge of like making sure all the files are up to date to send to the orchestrator and stuff like that. It really depends on what the makeup of the music department is, because sometimes it's full on. You have an assistant MD, but you have your copyist and you have your blah blah blah. So you have all the other jobs done. So sometimes you might just be a pianist who will then play keys 2 in the orchestra and will probably conduct. But more than ever, an assistant MD is there to play for rehearsals, know the show inside out just as much as the MD, because you're likely to cover the MD and conduct some shows.
Do you have like a dream show and production you'd love to work on? I guess that's something part with George.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I think
at the Royal Albert.
Yeah.
1,000-piece orchestra. The audience all have instruments.
Give them all kazoos. Oh, do. That'll do. Imagine.
Real dogs just everywhere.
Wow. You should get on this, man.
Yeah,
you should direct that shit. Dogs everywhere. It's like Barney on speed. Oh no.
Oh my god. It's corner of the market. Well, actually, on that, what would you say is the end goal, kind of, for an MD? For you, what's like the I'm set. I'm good. I'm set. I've achieved my.
I'd like to be MD of a show in the West End, and as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, when I get there, I'll be happy. I mean, a job is a job, of course, but you've got to stay happy, and you've got to be, if you read the script and you're not feeling good about it, you have to balance it out with, when taking a job, going like, I love the show, or maybe it's not my type of show, but it will get me lots of good contacts by doing it. Oftentimes when it's that choice, you're not always happy. I've found anyway. As an MD, yes, the end goal is to do something in the West End, but because I eventually want to be doing composing and writing exclusively. It's not an end goal as in I'm done.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things I want to do. For me, MDing is priceless as a composer. I get to understand how things get developed through a rehearsal process. I understand what the creative team needs from a writer, and as someone who's been in a position both ways where I've been given everything and anything and given stuff where I have to do a lot of work as an MD, I can always, as a writer, just cut some of those things out just to make life a bit easier for the music team, which is always a nice thing to be able to do. Yeah. But I guess my overall goal is to be, I want to write songs for Disney, really, so not going to lie.
And be the next Disney princess.
Well, yeah, that too.
Obviously.
Yeah. Duh. Frozen 3.
Talk me through like the daily routine, or over the 3-month period of a show. What is your job as an MD? What do you find yourself doing hour by hour in a minute?
Well, let's start with that first. What the job is? The job is it's in 2 parts. The first part, well, maybe 3. The first part, time-wise, so rehearsals. You're in charge of teaching the actors, their notes, their harmonies, all of that. And you're also in charge of sustaining a level of quality and making sure that is encouraged. Once you're in shows, you're in charge of, like I say, sustaining the quality through and just always keeping an eye on things in case anything slips and just making sure every show, no matter how many weeks after you've opened, sustains what you originally intended. The special job about the MD is such, you're often the only person from the creative team who's sticking around after opening night. So in a way you hold the flag up for the rest of your creative team. But yes, you're in charge of everything musically in a show. Often you'll be working with a music supervisor, who's your boss, who will give you lots and lots of encouragement and lots of fantastic advice, and your assistant who supports you wonderfully. An orchestrator, sometimes you're the orchestrator, who will write down the dots for all of your band. And then apart from that, I'd say what I've just explained is only 30% of the job. Because the other 70% is people skills. And making sure you can, be relatable and be happy and give joy, I say. Make everyone happy and feel the love. Because if they're not, we're going to end up with some scraps. And we don't want a company that falls apart. Yeah. So you're a leader. People skills is more important than the actual being able to read the music. So much more important.
Yeah. When you say keeping up the standard of making sure things don't slip. Make sure things slip. No,
do it shit tonight.
I just want to see what happens. The investors are in tonight. Just let's have a laugh. No. What usually, when you say things slip, what tends to be the worst offenders? What comes up most frequently?
Sometimes it's just energy. Sometimes something just lacks, and I miss some of the articulation that I put in, or diction, or if there was a specific rhythm that I really wanted punching out or something, that might just slip, and that's a normal thing, if you're doing the same thing 8 shows a week, something's gonna go. And that's fine, you just need to, you're just there to keep a track on it. Sometimes really random things go wrong, and you might just need to do a little music call on that, but it's normal to have at least one music call a week just to finesse things a little bit more and just keep it more so for the long runners, but even so for short runs, it's always nice to just keep on check with everything and make sure everyone is okay, health wise as well, unless you have a vocal coach. But it's always good as an MD to be aware of vocal technique and healthy singing and stuff like that. So yeah.
On that, nice segue.
Oh dear.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about giving singing lessons. So is that the main source of your income when you're not doing like MD or composer?
Absolutely, education and teaching. Yeah, definitely.
So how much of that do you do? How do you get into it? Where do you start?
Well, one-to-one private coaching is very easy to get into. You just put yourself out there. I'm available. I love doing one-to-ones, audition prep, working on songs, confidence building, all that sort of thing. And then alongside that, teaching at colleges and stuff like that. It's I love teaching people about the craft, teaching people about the form. I love history and music theatre, so I love sharing little bits of info bites and stuff like that. I like to think that I inspire people about music theatre. I kind of hope more and more young people get more interested in the history of the form. Because at the end of the day, music theatre is such a new form when we think about it really, especially in the form that we see it in now, compared to stuff like opera, Shakespeare, etc., which has a long history. And people seem to remember it from all the way back then. And we're very lucky. We're in the very early stages of this fantastic genre, which should hopefully survive another century. But we've got to remember. We have to remember what we come from before, and the craft that people finessed in the 20s, 30s, 40s, right through to where we are now, and that we don't lose any of it. Sure, it's changing all the time, and we see new shows in a different way, being done differently. But I think it's so important to hold on to the techniques and the basis of what the form is now because of what happened in 1928 or whatever, Yeah. Woo! History of music theatre. Woo. I'm all for it. Huge. Yeah. Huge.
What work-wise do you expect and want your performers to bring to you?
A willingness. Well, first of all, it's always nice when people come knowing the song. Or,
I laugh.
But just if it's a musical thing, then yeah, it's always nice when someone comes full on 100%. Right, we're going to work on this song, and I'm always happy when people bring opinions and bring thoughts about. I think this bit should go like this. I think this bit. I'd love it for a bit of rowl here or something like that. I love collaboration, so I'm not here to dictate. This is how the music goes for this. Sometimes there are some things, and it's like, okay, we can't do some things coming in a stripper tempo. Okay, that's. But yeah, I do love collaboration. Around the corner.
I'm something like a polka Maria.
Oh dear. Will never be the same to me. Oh, I love this. We should do this. Oh dear.
I'm waiting for that production now.
Again, do it. Direct that shit. Oh dear.
So actually on that, what advice do you have for actors who might feel a bit shy when it comes to kind of coming forward with their suggestions regarding like, oh, I think this bit should go like that. When does an actor overstep the mark? Like, when does an actor go like, oh, okay, that like, calm down. Like, versus, oh, it's really cool.
Well, put it this way: you're not a diva when you start out, are you? You work yourself up a hierarchy which exists, you know. But that doesn't mean to say that if I work for you for the first time and it's your first job out of music college, I'm not gonna listen to you at all, obviously. But if I was working with Patti LuPone, I'd probably be on my knees for the whole thing and be like, "Yes, we'll do whatever you want." But yeah, I think well, always the first time if you want to suggest something, it's just a simple case of being polite. And could I suggest something? Is that okay? Making sure that, you know, so maybe you will work with a director who's not keen on that sort of thing, but I'm sure you can gauge it from the first day what sort of atmosphere the room will be like and how open we are to suggestions. Sure, we don't want to be spending all our time, especially in music halls, going, oh, should it be this, should it be that? Oh, what about this lyric or something? Music hall, music. At the end of the day, week one, music halls, we just want to get all of the material taught, and then we'll deal with it later. I'm sure we can have discussions, absolutely, always open to discussions. But yeah, I think there's no need to be shy about that sort of thing. At the end of the day, it's your name on that stage, it's your name in that on that playbill, so you want to be proud of what you're doing. So.
When you're working with a piece, is there a different approach you have with a classic versus a new writing? When something's been done countless times before, do you approach it any differently to the way you approach, say, a completely new musical?
I think the approach is the same, but the preparation is completely different. With a classic, or any show that's been done before, you often have a resource of materials from previous productions that you can check up on. For instance, I'm doing Sweet Charity next month at the Erdang School of something. What do they call it now? Is it just the Erdang these days?
The Erdang.
Erdang. The Dang.
Dang.
So with that, Sweet Charity is interesting because there's so many different versions kicking about, different endings, different versions of some of the numbers. So that means I have a wealth of productions that I can look up on with fantastic director Matt Cole and work out how exactly we want to do certain numbers. Of course, we've got a script to read, obviously, but it's always great to listen to the original, listen to other revivals, see what you liked, didn't like. I love referencing other things and doing the research of previous productions. I don't think that's a bad thing as an MD. And then making your own decisions on what you would like for your production, what stylistic choices you would like to do. And then when it comes to a new production, the prep is different because sometimes you might have all the music beforehand, you might not have everything. So you can prep what you're given, but often the case would be prep in other ways, such as contextual history, etc., doing a little bit of background research and stuff like that of the music of the time that show is written. For example, I did a show called The Bubbly Black Girl. Oh jeez, what was the rest of it?
Some chameleon skin.
Thank you!
I did my research.
Shut up! what was I going on to say? Oh yeah.
That was an EP.
Yes,
yeah.
so that only had one production before in off-Broadway. And that was like something like 20 years before we did it here, which was the UK premiere. But we had a chance to really relook at the show and do a new version of it. And a lot of that was because the show was set in the 60s through to the 80s, I believe. Off the top of my head, there was a lot of research for like civil rights movements in America and stuff like that. So that was good fun. And then when it comes to brand new shows, the work is different because you often have more work to do because if you're an orchestrator, you're absolutely cut out because there's often lots of changes in rehearsal rooms, so that has to be reflected in the band parts. You're always workshopping new things and making it work. Basically, it's a different kettle of fish doing a new musical compared to something which has been tried and tested. Even something like Sweet Charity, which has had so many different versions and. People will contest about which is the perfect version of the show, but at least you got somewhere to start off with. With a new musical, you've got to use your brain as an MD, but also as a dramatist, as someone who's going to produce a piece of theatre to work with the director to make it work. Okay, this number doesn't need a button, it won't work, or this number doesn't quite work here, what do you think, Mr. Director? Should we swap this? Stuff like that.
So with that, how much room and freedom do you have to play around with the music? So how strongly do you stick to your perceived original vision of what the composer had?
Yeah.
Can you go as far as to just completely change notes and chord progressions, or how far can you go with it in terms of
that's an
your
interesting
own spin on it?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's a hard one because it depends on the clout of the show. I say if you're doing West Side Story, you should really stick to it. If you want to do a new arrangement of Sweet Charity, so you could do a new arrangement of Rhythm of Life, say that might be fun. Yeah, you could pull things around. I remember actually I did a wonderful production of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at the wonderful Guildford School of Acting. And I'll never forget this. There was one number. Oh, what's it called? I speak 6 languages. And we had a wonderful actress, Alice Grudem, who so happened to play double bass. It's like, ooh, I'd love to use this. There's one verse in that number where, because she's a prodigy, she plays that verse on the piano, a la Beethoven, a la Mozart, scales everywhere, thundering. But I thought, well, she doesn't play piano, but she plays bass really well. So instead, we changed that section to a swing time bass solo thing.
Yeah.
It was good fun. We did actually completely change that verse. But for reasons that only came through working with that cast and specifically working with Alice, because that was the talent that she gave to us. So we responded to that, and it was a complete choice, but I felt it was unique. I felt it was nice for this production specifically. There's often lots of specific production changes, and you have to go, would the writer mind? Would the writer enjoy it? Would it still give off the same sentiment? Would it still achieve the same thing that the original tried to achieve? And I think it did, because it just showed that she was capable of playing a musical instrument. It just so happened she played, so you got to think of it like that. Yeah, sometimes we can overstep the mark. Sometimes you can do a new orchestration arrangement of a number from a classic show, but the orchestration can sometimes be so over the top that it loses all its credibility and the authenticity of the time. It becomes something completely different, which is a shame.
Awesome. Well, I don't really think I have many more questions regarding industry grab, but I do have a little bit of a fun thing I want to do.
There we go.
Which we do every now and again. We don't do it all the time, but
No.
so I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions. And you need to answer them as quickly as you can.
Okay.
You're not allowed to think.
Okay.
So you've got to answer them.
Okay,
They're
then.
quite simple. So,
Alright then.
cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favourite comfort food?
Pizza.
Ideal holiday location?
Beach. Anyway.
Just sitting next to the Thames.
Yeah. Australia.
Favourite word?
Flamboyant.
Least favourite word?
Crude.
Least favourite food?
Tofu, but that's a lie because I've never tasted it.
Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones?
Lord of the Rings.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Favourite swear word?
Fuck.
Yeah. What superpower would you have?
Flying.
Flying. That is definitely the most popular one.
It is, isn't it?
I think
but that's often because we can't think of anything else.
Yeah. Or it's either that or people who are prepared, like they just know and they go,
yeah.
I've been waiting for this moment to tell you my superpower.
What's your superpower? A bot like a dog.
Be able to put on massive productions of something in the park with
with shitloads of dogs.
My superpower is
Sunday, woof woof. Oh dear, this is not very quick fire, is it?
Well, I know, actually that was the last one, because I have one more question for you. It is the title of the show. So Jordan, so, what next?
What next?
Yeah, what are you doing
As
next?
in, actually, what's happening next?
What's happening
So
next
I'm doing Sweet Charity at the Erdang, and then I'm doing a wonderful new show called The Assassination of Katie Hopkins, the musical, at the wonderful Theatre Clwyd, written by the fabulous Chris Bush and Matt Wingworth. It's a really interesting show, and I think you should all get a train ticket and come up to North Wales and watch it before it storms the London sea.
But you're working on your own musical.
That's correct.
That is correct. What is it?
It's
Tell me about it. Tell me everything.
It is called Therapy, the musical, written by myself on the music, and book and lyrics by the wonderful Ray Rackham. The show is about 6 people going through therapy. That's it. The conceit of it is it's all sort of direct address to the audience. The audience is the therapist, you see.
Wow.
And the music, it's very rocky. It's sort of falsettos meets next to normal. That's the idea. And we did some demos the other month of 2 numbers, the opening number and the 11 o'clock number. One of which, the 11 o'clock number, we did a music video of, which is on our Facebook page, plug. You should come and see it when it opens, sooner or later. We're currently working on the concept album of the show.
Cool.
So.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely sharing. Yeah. I did that.
Hey.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of So What Next. If you'd like to know more about Jordan, his links will be in the description below, and make sure you leave a like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time on So What Next.